recording. You look good. Okay, Dave, I think you're ready to go.
Hello, everybody. We are live today, and we are here to talk about best alternative exercises to Olympic lifts. I can't wait to see if people are triggered. Best alternative exercises to Olympic lifts. Oh my gosh. So, before we get into the actual best alternative to Olympic lifts, best alternative exercises to Olympic lifts, I think first let's go over the winners of this week's t-shirt giveaway. Guys on Instagram, if you want to go over to the YouTube channel, Garage Strengths YouTube channel, you're going to see we're doing our t-shirt giveaway. Karipa Sama, I love you guys as well. Thanks for being in that chat. Keist, what's up? Harry Potter Hustler, hello. Already feel my biceps getting bigger. This is from OJ_C3318. You won the t-shirt giveaway from the Every Part of Biceps video. OJ_C3318. I just had the image of OJ driving down the highway in LA in that white Ford Bronco. The Ford Bronco's making a comeback. Good for them. Coming back around after the OJ debacle from, 1995. Dude, I remember when that verdict came out. I was in 6th grade, if I remember correctly. That was a wild, wild time. Very wild time, the OJ debacle. Okay, so now we're getting into the next one. Byron 916 Mock, showing my son this video pronto, and he's talking about the testosterone video that we released I want to say about 2-3 weeks ago, basically laying out real simple stuff about where you guys can do these things. Russell Bowman is in the chat. Who currently has the best power clean in the chat? Russell's is around 175. I wonder what everybody else is in the chat right now. So Byron 916 Mock, you won the t-shirt giveaway. Now let's get into and all you guys have to do, you just email us, support@garagestrength.com. You take a picture of your YouTube channel or your YouTube studio. You can blank out any revenue issues that you have in there, and then email us that it is indeed you. And then what we can do is send you guys those t-shirts. We got an interesting one today that we're going to be reacting to a video live. Okay, so I'm pretty excited about that. But we also are going to go into some of these sweet questions because we have a couple really, really good questions that I want to cover. Then we're going to get into that React video, and then we're going to go into those alternative exercises to the Olympic lifts. And this is like something that I was asked on a recent podcast. There was a guy who did a video of me like reacting to me, and he sort of got a little heated and got mad at me, and then we ended up linking up on Instagram, and he agreed to have me on to his podcast, and we actually talked about whether we should do weightlifting movements or not in training, and why I use them, why he doesn't use them. Had a good talk, which that I think is going to be coming out in the next week or so. So, yeah. Anyway, I think it's an interesting discussion, but let's get into some of these. Let's get into some of these questions here. And if you guys are inside our YouTube chat right now, we just put up a YouTube survey. Do you use weightlifting exercises? Yes or no? Do you use them in training? Yes or no? And also, there's a third option that you use them, but you just do powers. Okay, so this question that I thought, this is a good one from Robert, Robert Damiano, 8058. Robert Damiano, 8058. Would you date Bulgarian and front squat on the same day? So I guess, for example, in a full body in-season workout, would you put Bulgarian and front squats? First of all, I don't know what a Bulgarian squat is. Everybody, they're not called Bulgarian squats. They're called single leg squats. Please, Bulgarians didn't do single leg squats. There's tons of footage of Bulgarians training. There's zero footage of them doing single leg squats, at least as far as the weightlifters are concerned. This is all a marketing ploy. Let's call it what it is, a single leg squat or a one-legged squat. Anyway, would you date, or would you put, he says date, but I think he means would you put single leg and front squat on the same day, for example, in a full body in-season workout? One thing that I would do if I was laying something out for, let's say someone, I'm trying to think about like like somebody if I was building a program. So I just built out Hugo Barrett's. He's a sprint cyclist, been to the Olympics twice. So we're laying out his program currently, and he's got his first race is going to be like the end of January, early February. So sometimes I might do like he does really heavy front squats or really heavy back squats, let's say, and then he'll do like one-legged leg press real fast as like 2 drop sets. So just like crazy drop sets. That's like a potential example. It's not an exact example, but in this case from Robert Damiano, both the single leg and the front squat on the same day, I think you can. I don't think you should necessarily, but you could do like heavy front squats and then do single leg drop sets of really high weight with just like the bar on your back. Or you do it the other way around where you do like single leg squats for 5 sets of 3 on each leg, pushing that weight pretty hard. And then you do like 2 drop sets of 5 at the same weight or a little bit lighter on the front squat. So I think you could get away with doing it. I typically would not, but you can do it. I hope that helps at least to a point. Now this is a tough one to read on the screen, at least on my screen. And this one is from Project Rolls 4339. Hi, Coach. If I am an MMA practitioner, and guys, don't forget to vote over on that, vote on our survey either. Somebody just commented, single leg squat, date them both. That was a good one. I like that, Daryl. Okay, so if I am a MMA practitioner, what are the examples of reflexive strength routine? And for the accessory part, let's say for contact sport like MMA, which is more priority? Is it hypertrophy or muscle endurance? I think it depends on, first of all, your issues as an athlete. I would want to see, like, are you, let's say somebody, like if you're looking, I don't know if you guys remember way back, there was a guy named Houston Alexander. He fought in the UFC and like, he was notorious. I think Keith Jardine might have been, if my memory serves me correctly, somebody should comment in the chat here. I believe Keith Jardine was like the UFC light heavyweight champ, so 205 champ at the time. And Houston Alexander came out and knocked him out in like 45 seconds. It might have even been faster than that. Like, he was huge. So I'm answering this MMA practitioner's question. Like, Houston Alexander probably needed to work more on muscular endurance because he ended up having issues where he would just gas out after like 2 minutes of a round and just would get, annihilated on the skill factor. But super explosive dude, right? So, and honestly, in a sport like MMA, hypertrophy is going to matter, but it's not going to be a priority. I think muscular endurance is always going to reign king. I still think that you should spend maybe 4 to 6 sets a week on problem areas from a hypertrophy perspective, just to try and create, like, I like to call it like structural bodybuilding. So you can sort of analyze where that individual might have some issues, and then do something along those lines. Now, to go back to the reflexive strength routine, when I watch fighting, or MMA, Muay Thai, something like that, I like to think about, honestly, this is going to be an interesting one where I would do an open chain reflexive movement, something where there's like a pull into some type of banded knee, so like a pull up into a banded knee, a pull, and if you watch pole vaulters do quite a bit of this, where they'll do almost like a muscle up. It looks like an upside down muscle up, but you could do that with a band around a knee to mimic like getting that collar tie or getting the clinch and then kneeing somebody. I would also just break down, like, this is sort of how I look at it. I would try to break down like 3 or 4 of the best fighters in the world, and I would spend quite a bit of time analyzing their movement patterns, and then try to see if we could come up with like 3 or 4 unique reflexive exercises to really train those patterns so that you can chunk them and then use them in your skill-based work. I would even watch somebody who is unorthodox, someone like Lyoto Machida, like way back, like super unorthodox fighter, very unique with his footwork, and try to even just move a little bit in that regard. If you guys watch our Lynch series, jumps, like that's how we come up with those things. So you try to create, I like to like reverse engineer what somebody's doing. And in this case, in the octagon, I would need to spend a little bit of time, and maybe that's something that we could do on Peak Strength's channel, our second channel, is I could break down like 2 or 3 fighters series and how they set up they might set up a kick, or how they're going to set up a specific type of punch. And that's what I would do there, Project Rolls, is I would analyze what's your strength, and then what can we do based off of your strength to deceive your opponent and then put yourself in that position to execute a substantial offensive movement pattern. So if you have like a crazy, crazy high head kick, right? How can we set up 1, 2, 3 movements to deceive the opponent, but actually put yourself in this really, really strong position of a stretch shortening cycle that would then lead to that high leg kick? That's how. So to answer your reflexive stuff, I really need to look at the fighter individually and break it down that way. I hope that helps a little bit. I know I went a little bit in the weeds, but it's a pretty tough question. Now we got another one. Patsy Cards. This is from Patsy Cards. And again, everybody over on Instagram, if you guys want to see these questions, you can check out the YouTube channel right now. And right now, I think we've got 71% of the athletes that are in there are coming through saying that they do use weightlifting exercises. I can't see the rest of the results. It's interesting. I love running these surveys, though, these little polls. I love the polls. They're so fun for me to just see the results. That's not beer either. That's kombucha. Okay. Next one. Patsy Cards. What is the next best thing if you cannot do weightlifting exercises? And I think this would be related to if somebody can't do a weightlifting movement because of an injury, if somebody can't do a weightlifting movement because of their gym setup per se, if somebody can't do a weightlifting exercise because they've never learned them, if somebody can't do a weightlifting exercise because they're traveling. And what I like to do is the first thing that I would hammer is trying to do something that is like a ballistic movement. So let's say a medicine ball throw or something like that. But also, I think more importantly, I would really focus quite a bit more on something like a plyometric, so like stair jumps, hurdle hops, box jumps, jump lunges, something along those lines, and then trap bar jumps, dumbbell snatch. I just gave you a whole shitload of different exercises, but I would start with like a dumbbell jump or a dumbbell snatch and use those if I can't do Olympic lifts. Okay, so that would sort of be that step that I would take. And then after that, so I want to look at what weighted movements could I do? What weighted, Dan Westarb, you're in the chat. Let me know what the stats are on Sam Black right now. So if you can't do weightlifting exercises, you have to look at it like, okay, what can we do with weights? What can we do with our body, like plyometric based stuff? That's how I would go through that. Now, let's see here. Let's go here. And then if I click on this, no. Okay. Now we're going to do our sweet little react. Wait till you guys see this. Oh, geez. Jason's going to kill me. There we go. I did it. Jason's going to be proud of me now. Okay, so we're doing this react, guys. We're doing a react live. Okay? I'm going to do this react. Check this out. Let me know what you think, because this is Coach Mario Rios. Here we go. This way. It's a terrible clean there. Okay. So, the entire discussion. Okay. Let's click on that. There we go. All right. So let's go think about what, oh no, Jason, there's a bug on the screen of the camera right now that I can see that is not in the camera's view yet. But anyway, I can see this bug. It's like starting to creep down the lens. So it will be coming into view shortly. Anyway, if I'm responding to this, actually, I sort of want to put this back up there because it's one of those things first of all, when I watch this, I'm like, why is he using Lessman here? If you watch right here, not this dude, Lessman right there. Why is he using him and saying it doesn't help you build muscle is beyond me. Like, turn up the speaker. So apparently he's saying athletes don't use it. Doesn't. This dude's jacked, by the way. So this dude, Lessman, is absolutely huge. Jason, that bug's back on the lens. Like, when I'm saying that Lessman, the dude that he used in the video, he is huge and looks like a freaking bodybuilder. He's also known as like I think they call him like the deltoid monster or something. His shoulders are freaking huge. So I don't know why he's using Lessman as the example there. But he's saying that athletes don't adapt optimally. I think this goes back to, this is a whole discussion. If we can look at, why do people use weightlifting movements? Typically, someone's going to use a weightlifting. There's the bug. I just saw it crawl across the screen. If someone is using a weightlifting exercise or program for weightlifting, right? They've probably had success as a weightlifter, or they've had success themselves. There we go. They've probably had success themselves with weightlifting movements, right? So they've actually implemented weightlifting exercises into their program and they've seen a direct response. Like, they've gotten more explosive, they've jumped higher. You know, and I know, guys, like, all my weightlifters have 40+ inch verticals, but it's not weightlifting. It's just their genetics. I get it. You know, when weightlifters have 40-inch verticals and the women have 30-inch verticals, it's not weightlifting that's actually helping them be more explosive. It's just by accident. I get it. I understand. That's what it is. It has nothing to do with weightlifting. It's just by accident that they actually have 40+ inch verticals. Anyway, when we look at that, you know, first of all, he's using Lessman, and that dude is absolutely yoked. Second of all, going back to the original discussion, the second reason why people use weightlifting exercises is because their coach used weightlifting exercises when they came up. So in my case, you know, I was taught weightlifting movements when I was in 9th grade, and I had a coach. I was successful as an athlete. And then my coach, Anatoly Bondarchuk, who's an Olympic champion, he also used weightlifting movements, and so I use them, right? I use them. That's why. If you don't use them, there's two reasons why you don't use them, okay? The first reason is you think, you know, they're too hard to learn. So it's like you're sort of anti because of practicality. They're too hard to learn, and you can't use them in a group setting. That's your argument usually, right? The second setup is because you didn't have good success with them yourself, so you don't think they're valuable. That's perfectly fair. What is my thought? Do I think you have to use weightlifting exercises? Okay. Do I think you absolutely 100% have to use weightlifting exercises? If I brought up person A, person B, right? And they're both here and they both start with me from day one. They start from day one. They're the person who begins weightlifting versus the one who doesn't. This person that has weightlifting is likely going to be the better athlete, because we have a program tailored where they use weightlifting, they use strength movements, they use plyometrics, hypertrophy, everything. This person's lacking a little bit of a tool. Okay. Now, if person A and person B don't start with me until they're like 25 and they're already elite level athletes, and the one has never used weightlifting exercises, I'm probably not going to make them do weightlifting exercises. Like, they haven't had them yet. Maybe we might do some easy pulls or something like that, but I don't think you have to force it on people. So the one thing I would say is that there's other ways that you can get the aspect out of it. Now, going to what Mario Rios was saying is, first of all, Lessman is huge, absolutely huge. So you can get substantial physique improvements from weightlifting exercises. I would even argue, just look at somebody like Jake Horse, who trained with us. You know, he snatched 320 pounds, weighing 155 pounds, had a 44-inch vertical. I know Jake had a 44-inch vertical, not because of weightlifting exercises and the fact that he squatted all the time and like he could snatch 320. I know it was just by accident that he had that 44-inch vertical, but also he was freaking jacked, like shoulders huge, arms huge, biceps absolutely enormous. So I don't think that that's actually accurate. Also, typically from what I see is that if you have the coaching issue, it really depends upon how much time you can spend with somebody, but if you can't teach people how to weightlift, either the person, has some mobility issues, right? So we got to deal with that anyway. Or two, you suck at coaching. Like they either have some coding problems with their coordination. They have some mobility issues. That's perfectly fair. So we've got to work through that anyway as a coach. It doesn't matter. Like they might struggle with doing box jumps as well. They might struggle to get a front rack. They might struggle overhead. So we've got to work with all those things anyway. The second part is, again, if you have someone who's proficient, who's an athlete, and you can't learn it within a session, I've got 13-year-old kids that'll come in. We've got videos of 2 in the last month that have come in and learn how to snatch and clean in the first session very proficiently. And I think my problem's always been like, you can't teach somebody at a Power 5 football program how to clean or snatch properly like in a day. Really? You could use it as warm-ups for a while. Also, we are going to do a video. I have on my phone, which is actually right there. I was just looking for it. I've got like 15 different research papers related to sprinting and related to jumping that show that the positive attributes of weightlifting exercises. So snatch, clean, or snatch and clean variations and jerks. So there is quite a bit of evidence for that scientifically. There's also, a couple other things. So I guess to answer to Mario, they're hard to learn, but also being a good athlete is challenging. I don't think it's the end all be all. It's funny. I mentioned Lyoto Machida earlier. He actually did there's a video of Lyoto Machida on a weightlifting channel from like 2010 or 2011, and he's like power cleaning like 110, 120 kilos. But yeah, people use them, right? So I think it just comes back to learning properly, making sure you have decent mechanics. You can move proficiently. You can indeed increase muscle mass from doing weightlifting movements. You also can just focus on power output and relative strength. And, I think I want to get into this further now, though, because I do believe you can provide quite a bit of evidence that you don't have to use weightlifting exercises, but that's not optimal. So that would be my big discussion. And so before we continue the Q&A and we get into the YouTube chat room, which is absolutely packed. Gosh, I always point to the wrong side right here. The YouTube chat room is absolutely packed. So we're going to get into there. And before we dive deeper into this discussion on all aspects of training, coaching specific issues for your goals, make sure you consider becoming a channel member. All you guys have to do to become a channel member is that, first of all, we show up every Friday for a private live. You can click join if you're on the desktop, or you can join through every single video that we put out on YouTube. It's $10 a month. We do a 1-hour lecture and discussion inside of those private lives. $10 a month. So that's what is that? $2.50. That's cheaper than a cappuccino. Cappuccinos are $4.50. It's cheaper than a coffee. And if you don't want to spend that $10, go check out the Garage Strength podcast on YouTube or any other podcast app. Again, that's my plug to get you guys into that private live. Oh, there, Jason's got the Lyoto Machida video. I feel like we should put that. Let's see if I'm skilled enough. Let's see if I'm skilled enough to actually get this over into this. I don't think I'm going to be skilled enough. Oh, yeah, I can't get in it, but you can see on this video, this is the link. So Jason did just provide for everybody over watching. It's Lyoto Machida. I don't know what he's hitting there, though. I think he might be snatching there. So, yeah, just wanted thanks for doing that, Jason. That's pretty sweet. All right, let's get into some of these freaking questions because we got a lot of them to just try and target. So, do you use Olympic lifts in your training? 70% of you guys said yes. 21% said no. 8% said only powers. Russell Bowman. I've argued with him on TikTok a while back. I'm 99% sure he just makes bad takes for the sake of engagements on social. And I'm assuming he's referring to Mario Rios. That's my assumption there. Now, if we get into the next question here from Uncle Fester, should runners do plyometrics and weight training in the off season for long distance running? Yes, they definitely should. Why don't you just do it? Oh, both of them. Let's watch this Lyoto Machida. Okay, so here is Lyoto Machida. I don't know what he's snatching.
Speed, fast under.
Now think about it. This dude was I think he had 5 title defenses. That's probably 70 kilos. And that's a snatch. That's not bad. No, that's not bad at all. Okay. That's exciting that we got to witness that. Whoops. Jason, make sure I haven't screwed this up on the screen. I'm trying to get better with how I manage the actual images that you guys are getting. All right, let's get back into these. I got to answer Uncle Fester. So Uncle Fester, should runners do plyometrics? Yes, 100%. And weight training in the off season? Yes. For long distance runners, will it make you faster and injury bulletproof? It's not going to make you injury bulletproof, but it will indeed help you. So I would say twice a week, maybe 3 times a week in the off season. Do you know about Paul Saladino? If so, what are your thoughts on his belief that vegetables are bad for you? I think he is wildly misinformed, and I would point you in the direction to watch Lane Norton break down Paul Saladino. I think it's much more enjoyable than myself. Coach, I seen an old school bodybuilder hold bicep curls at the end closer towards the torso. Why did he do that? That could be, I'm assuming like this, a little bit tighter. I'm assuming that could be maybe a little bit more grip work, a little bit more focus on that bottom range. When you hold it tighter to your torso, you can almost use your gut like here to cheat and hold that. You could use a little bit more weight. It's almost similar to a cheat curl. I think that's fair. I don't think it's absolutely fantastic, but I think it's decent. Harry Potter Hustler. Hey, man, I asked you about long distance cardio last time, and you said to do it twice a week maximum. Then what do you think would be a good plan for a 14-year-old soccer player from Europe? This is Harry Potter. Harry Potter, twice a week max. I mean, a good plan. I would say do this. Go into peak strength. Get the soccer program, okay? And I'm going to be on a soccer podcast. I want to say that's coming out in another 2 weeks as well. So a big-time soccer podcast had me on last Monday, which was sweet. It was so much freaking fun. But like a drag curl. Actually, that's a good point. So I was just on this big-time soccer podcast, had a lot of fun. And I will say this, Harry Potter, if you do distance work, cardio twice a week, and then you do sprints once a week or maybe twice a week, you can lift 3 days a week, and you're going to be in really, really good shape. That's what I would recommend, especially for a younger individual, younger athlete. Okay, so let's get down. Keist was saying he was trying not to kill. Oh, geez. How is the running going? Running's been going well. This is my highest volume week that I'm going to have on my entire prep for the marathon. I'm extremely tired, and I'm trying to eat a ton of carbs and protein, and I just feel like I'm sleepy or hungry all day. Best food store in the Fairgrounds Market. Shut up, Andy. That's funny. Hey, Dane, greetings once again from Spain. Thanks for joining in from Spain, Kingsley. Watching your YouTube, I've improved my snatch. Thanks a lot. Kingsley, that's great. I hope you keep plugging away. Make sure you focus on your technique. Good position below the knee. Hold that and be as explosive as possible. Marstronaut, I was wondering whether dumbbell or kettlebell snatches and cleans are enough for someone like me, for someone like myself, training for just general fitness and athleticism, not sport specific in a commercial gym. Yeah, Marstronaut, I think that's great. Dumbbell snatch, kettlebell snatches, and then are you doing like cleans with a barbell? I think that's enough. I think that's great. And then you could do cleans into front squats. You could do cleans, a complex, and then do pulls at the end of that. I think that's fantastic, and I think it's something that you can use even to help with your mobility. What is better for MMA, bench press or a floor press? And should I train it like 3x3 or more reps for speed? This is from Kuripa. I would say full range of motion bench press, you can pause and then use auditory commands to be explosive from the chest. I would even recommend doing like 4 sets of 4 on short rest and then maybe like 2 higher rep sets. I think that's where I would go. David, hi Dane, hope you're doing well. How do I increase my snatch and how should I aim to snatch for volleyball? I'm 16 and I'm 6 feet. How much should I aim to snatch? Can you snatch 70 kilos, 80 kilos, 90 kilos? The thing is to get a big time blackjack. Thanks for that. 199. Boom. If you're, trying to be explosive, you should try and push that closer to 90 kilos, I would assume. I would think. And then answering that, how do I increase my snatch more frequently? Anything that's technical, and this would be another thing to throw at Mario Rios, is that anything that has technique involved, you will see a direct response by increasing your volume. So if you're snatching more frequently or you're cleaning or jerking more frequently, your technique will improve if you're using the right cues and you're breaking the movement pattern down effectively and you're looking at how to be as elastic and as twitchy as possible. So if you're focusing on developing power, we can think about the intent to move it very fast. So that would be impulse specific. But then we could also focus on moving more weight, moving more load, which will just lead to a greater path of acceleration, which will help your jumps. So I think 2 to 3 days a week. Again, we got the volleyball program inside Peak Strength. It's built specific to people for playing volleyball, and it's going to help absolutely crush it. Let's see. What are the best non-Olympic lifts for throwers? I can't get the actual O lifts down, but I want to be great at my sport. I'm starting college next year. I want to get good scholarships. That would be for Tef Void. Tef Void. Isn't Tef? I think it's like a grain. It's like one of those super grains. I would say the best non-Olympic lifts for throwers. I think this. Okay. If I was looking at somebody can't, let's just say somebody can't snatch. They can't clean. But we want to get the same factor of being powerful, explosive, jumping, moving something fast as rapidly as possible. I would do like 40-pound dumbbell jumps. And then on the last, let's say we do a set of 4 on the last rep, pause really rapidly. I would do trap bar jumps. There's a lot of research around trap bar jumps, explosive trap deadlifts that do have a very nice correlation to a vertical jump. And I think that's the other thing, that when we're talking about athleticism, I think that the key factors would be, if we're talking about athleticism, we have to look at literature and say, okay, what determines, what is athletic? And if we think about tests that they would do in a lab, a vertical jump, a 10 or 20 meter sprint to a point, maybe a double leg bound. Those are things that are relatively easy to measure, that you can use to determine relative athleticism. It's not going to be the greatest. A double leg triple jump's another one. It's not going to be the greatest way to analyze athleticism, but what we want to do is that if I'm looking at that and I'm saying, okay, I want to make you more athletic, what other exercises have been shown in the lab to improve those measurements? Sprints, double leg bounds, double leg triple jump, vertical jump. Okay, maybe bench throw. There's a lot of footage. There's a lot of data even around like bench press throw. So what I would then do is say, okay, there's a lot on trap bar jumps, dumbbell jumps. There is a little bit of work on even like a dumbbell snatch. And I would also then look at, let's say, just general plyometrics, right? Plyometrics that don't include, so like hurdle hops. There's a decent amount of research on hurdle hops, decent amount of research on bounds. So those are some movements that you can use to try and improve that. Now, the other factor is that you've also got to increase your absolute strength. And I think that when you increase your absolute strength and you get your legs stronger and beefier and able to rapidly recruit, you can also pair those things using contrast methods and stuff like that. So I really think that first, the most important part about not using weightlifting exercises is just to say, what are the measurements? What are the outcomes that we're looking for? What, again, jumping for distance, jumping for height, jumping repetitively, sprints with a sled. And then actually looking at sprints with the sled, that's another movement pattern that's great for speed development. It's great for power output, and it's not an Olympic lift. Pushing a sled, pulling a sled. I even think to a point, kettlebell swings. I'm not going to say entirely, but kettlebell swings and banded kettlebell swings are great. Maybe not an all-time alternative exercise to weightlifting, but they are movements that can get some of the similar benefits. Let's see. Are Olympic lifts paramount for MMA strength and conditioning? That's what I keep hearing. So are they paramount? Again, I think that they can play a nice positive role in your MMA production or your MMA skills, okay, and your MMA striking ability. I think you will genuinely probably have a slightly higher striking velocity if you're weightlifting, because your global ability to recruit is going to be quite a bit higher. I don't think that they're absolutely paramount for MMA, though. I think there's other things that you could be doing. Would I do them if you could do them effectively? Like, can you do a power snatch? Can you do a power clean? Can you do a clean and a front squat? I would still likely use them. And I think you would get a really good benefit out of them, yes. I don't think they have to be done, though. Harry Potter just said, don't know if you heard of this guy. Ian Barsegal has 500K subs. He said that only 2 compound lifts of push-ups and dips, pull-ups and dips is enough for building the upper body. Do you agree? I think, a lot of this, look, like I've always had issues with like super absolutism. Like you only need 2 things or you have to do it this way. And this is, it's ironic because we're talking about Olympic lifts. In the Olympic lifting world, so if you're a weightlifting coach, it's like heresy if you say you don't have to weightlift to be the best, one of the best athletes in the world. And I would say you don't have to. I would say you could build a decent program without weightlifting exercises. Now, I would also say, back that up, you probably wouldn't reach your absolute pinnacle as an athlete, but you'd still be really, really freaking good. And so to say an absolute thing like you only need 2 compound lifts, pull-ups and dips, like, okay, for how long? Are you only going to lift for like 8 weeks? I mean, if you only lift for 8 weeks, you could get away with just doing pull-ups and dips every single day. Now, if you're going to lift for 8 years, then you need more than that. And I think that's like the big thing here is like, dude, our mantra here at Garage Strength is 4 for 4. And we talked about this last Friday. But you got to start with, if you're just getting into lifting, you got to start with, I'm going to train for 4 hours for 4 days. Okay. I'm going to train an hour each day and I'm going to do it for 4 days. And then the next step, I'm going to train for 4 weeks for a month. So I'm going to do 4 weeks out of that month. I'm going to train 4 days, 4 hours a week. So 4 hours a week for 4 days for all the 4 weeks within a month. And then I'm going to say, all right, now I'm going to train for 4 quarters. Okay. For 4 freaking, or I can just say 4 months. Okay. And in those 4 months, in all of those 4 months, I'm going to try to get 4 days every single week in those 4 months. So we're doing 4 for 4. And then we're going to say, okay, going back to the beginning, if we break down, right? Like if you came to me and said, Dane, what do you need for me to be the best? Just the bare bones. I want to be the best possible athlete. I need you to train 4 days a week, 4 hours. Okay. 4 hours, 4 days a week. So that means 4 total hours every week for 4 years minimum. And then we do it again for another 4 years. And then we do it again for another 4 years. And then you'll probably be at the top of your game. So to go back to this question in the chat, it comes down to, all right, if the timeline is 8 weeks, pull-ups and dips is great. But if the timeline is 8 years, no. And that's the whole thing is like one of the issues I have with people who tend to be like influencers online that don't coach is that they'll spew absolutism. You have to do this, or you should only do this, or this is stupid. But they don't actually coach or develop anybody. Like they might have their online programs, which is great, dude. That's awesome. You're getting good stuff out of it. But you don't have 250 active members that are freaking busting their butt every single day, day in and day out, so they can get to the top, right? So it's like we have a research lab right over there, right past that wall. That's a whole research lab of training, okay? And I think that just needs to be said. So, sorry, I was going off of that. So, Harry Potter, and Ian Barsegal might be a really good dude and have really good content. I'll check him out. I will check him out. Mark Stenberg, how would you design an in-season strength and conditioning program for hockey players under the age of 18? Not many of them have previous. I would say if they don't have previous weight room experience, and it's in season, I would say a decent amount of sled work and a lot of calisthenics. A lot of sled work. And then one of those days I would try to do cleans or snatches as warm-ups. Use a dowel rod with bands. I just did an NSCA presentation on Friday where we talked about like the technique that you can learn by using a dowel rod with bands. And you can use that as a great warm-up tool. And it helps to get younger kids to learn how to move accordingly. So I would recommend using a dowel rod with bands. And I think that that's another thing. That's actually an alternative to Olympic lifts. Do an overhead squat with a dowel rod and a band, and you'll notice like this is a great warm-up. And it's an alternative. It's in theory, it is an alternative to the snatch. But that's how I would lay that out for hockey players. Let me know if that helps. Are kettlebells worth getting for a home gym? For sure. I think they're great. I think they would be effective. Coach, my rack pulls above the knees is same as a deadlift by 2 extra reps using the same weight. What's the strength percentage between the two? Usually rack pulls are like 130% of your deadlift. Most people could rack pull. Dude, I knew a dude who would come into the gym, and he was one of those guys that like, he would always come in and tell you like the weights he was doing, like always. And it's always guys that do that. It's like, hey, man, I was rack pulling 650. Dude, he'd pull like 430 off the floor, like, and would die before you get to the knee. It's like, dude, you got to stop rack pulling and doing like pause front squats and pulls from the floor or pulls from a deficit because you suck off the floor. And it was just like the ego lift. He didn't have a problem locking out. That wasn't his issue. I think rack pulls are okay. I've actually got a video from like 2008, 2007, or probably 2008, 2009 actually. I had a KRS-One shirt on. I still remember this video. And I want to say I might have done 2.5 times body weight on the trap bar deadlift for 10, from the floor for 10, and then from a rack pull for 10. And I called it the Triple Crown deadlift workout. So I think you want to make sure if you're doing heavy pulls that you can also pull from the floor. Does weight loss kill distance for throwing? Yes, it can potentially do that. Czech Republic. Greetings from the Czech Republic. All right. Thank you for being in here. Are safety squats okay to exclusively do? Safety squats are tough. They're very hard to do. I think they're great. What sport that you currently don't coach in strength work would you like to work with? Man, like a specific sport. Like I would love to be part of a fight camp prep. I think that would be really fun. I've done that in the past. With a Bellator fight, with a couple boxing fights. I like that. I like the sprint cycling work I'm doing. I'm trying to think right now off the top of my head, like maybe like football directly. I don't know. That's a good question, Keith, though. I think for me, I'm trying to think through the sports I'm not working with right now. Probably MMA right now would be at the top. Because it's tough. And it's fun to think about. Also, Coach, what do you think about weighted plyos? I'm not a huge fan of weighted plyos. I could be wrong on this, but most of the research that I've looked at is that weighted plyos have. Okay, so maybe I should clarify. Is this weighted plyos like with dumbbells, or is this weighted plyos with like a vest? And how long are you doing it? And are you using it with another exercise? I think that could be clarified. Rambler, Coach, barbell hip thrust from 12-inch box versus barbell hip thrust from the floor. Which has better range of motion, or does it matter? Well, to me, that's got to be measured already. That can't be a question for me, but I would assume I guess it could also be hip extension at the top will be more loaded on the bench than from the floor. So I would say from the bench or the box in the case that you used. Dane, I just got to the summit phase, but I've developed a left hip impingement. What should I do? Can you do, what does it hurt? What hurts when you're doing it? Side band walks, try and squat with a band around your knee, do some couch stretch. Is it the front or in the back? You got to be aware of that. Can you do pigeon pose? Can you do hip 90-90? Can you do anything? Are there any movements that you can use that don't bug it, that are leg based? Let me know. Do you think a 14-year-old male can take whey protein or creatine? I mean, yeah, you can take it. That's up to your mom and dad, though, or your guardian. Have you ever coached arm wrestling? No, I have not. How could I treat my back pain on my left side of my lower back? It gets worse when I do full effort jumps while reaching with my right hand. That's interesting. Have you seen the standing posterior twist? That's an exercise that we use quite a bit on some of our back videos from lower back videos. A standing posterior twist is one of the best things for that. Let me know if that helps. Let's see. What age to start doing Olympic lifts in sports? I think you should start doing sports as early as you can. My 4-year-olds are in soccer right now. They do gymnastics, soccer, they're swimming. They learn how to ride a bike by the time they were 2.5. Like, those are important things. Important skills are learning how to ride a bike and swimming very early is key. I think gymnastics is really important. So I think, you can start doing sports very young, but they should be enjoyable, and you're just learning how to move, right? And then with the Olympic lifts, you could start with a 5, 6, 7-year-old. But again, it's just about movement. It's just about having fun. It's just about them learning the patterns. Junior, one of our weightlifters, he just snatched 146 on Friday. Yesterday, he just low hang snatched 140. He's clean and jerked 175. He's front squatted 210 for a double. He's back squatted 250 for a triple. That dude started snatching when he was 7. Like, that's when he started lifting. So I think it's really just dependent upon the individual and what they want to do. Dane, my back squat has stayed the same for a while. How can I increase it while also increasing my clean during the football offseason? Quinn, I would recommend here, and we get this question quite a bit, is especially with football players, guys will say, like, man, this is stagnated. And then you're like, what program are you using? Well, you don't squat enough. You're not cleaning enough. You're doing 3 sets of everything. Get into peak strength. Go through the full program. Okay, go through every single phase: exposure phase, comprehension phase, ascension phase, summit phase. And then at the end, let's test. Okay, let's go through that. And you have a full 16 weeks built out in the football program specific to your position. Do the whole thing and come back in 16 weeks and tell me you did the entire thing. Tell me you did every single workout. Tell me you showed up and you brought the intensity every single session. You followed that 4-for-4 protocol. And if you didn't get better, I'll give you your money back. Like, maybe that should be our guarantee. That should be our guarantee. Do the entire thing, because now you're built around, you have a system built to make your clean better, make your squat better, make you more explosive, make you faster, make you stronger with your upper body. It's perfect. And it's designed in around a real research lab. Well, practical lab anyway. Loaded stretching. Loaded stretching's okay. I don't think it's amazing, but it's decent. Keith, what's the most overrated hype term in sports performance in the last couple of years? Hype term. So like I always thought like when they brought out those shock plates, probably velocity training right now. I think it goes in cycles. Probably velocity training. I was just trying to think about like Seedman, anything. I think potentiation gets, I use potentiation. I think that's a word that gets thrown around quite a bit, and people don't really think through what it actually means. Hype term. That's a good question, though. Throw some in the chat. What do you think of the top 3? What would be the number 1 exercise for a judoka according to you? I would say the deadlift for triple. There's no triple extension on the deadlift. So I don't know why you would say deadlift for triple extension mashie. I would say for a judoka, I would actually probably say like a no hook power clean into a front squat, something like that. Like I would use like a clean complex without a hook grip to improve the grip. I even think doing something as simple. So if you did like no hook power cleans or something like that, and then you did like towel pull-ups, I think that would be incredible. Harry Potter, are visible abs that important compared to unseeable ones? We've all got abs. They're just under a different layer of skin, okay? We all have them. It's all dependent upon how strong they actually are, though. So I don't think it's absolutely 100% amazing. Yo, by the way, we got Harry Potter and Uncle Fester. I love your guys' screen names in here. What's the best leg workout exercises for long-distance runners? We just filmed a peak strength video for this, dude. And this is what's funny is you guys are putting in like video ideas that I love. So we got to make sure that we're keeping track of this. The best leg workout exercises for long distance runners. So I just did a video on this. I filmed it yesterday. Yesterday. I'm going to give you two because I don't want to give away everything. Of course, a single leg squat, and then I'd say a pause back squat just for mobility. Because you got to look at distance running and say, like, we need to strengthen certain areas, but we also need to make sure that we have good hip mobility, good lower back mobility, good ankle mobility. How fast do you think an individual on average can progress in strength if he is novice, intermediate, professional? Do you have any specific numbers, at least in general? So we've got charts for, like, professional, basically, like, let's say in this scenario, if you were going to the NFL versus collegiate versus high school versus when you're first starting, and how fast you can progress is really going to be dependent upon your situation. You're going to make progress at a slower rate the older you are, the more advanced you are. So it'll happen a little bit slower, but you can make progress. What's up, Koopy? You can make progress through that point of growth for, Sam. So I'll use Sam. He's going to turn 30 this year. Alex Rose is 31. He's still making progress on his back squat, right? It's just slower. This year he might squat 650. Last year he squatted 635, so he's only adding like 10 to 15 pounds a year. Now, when you're like intermediate, you're still at that point of like, all right, this year I can add 35 pounds. Right. Whereas when you're a novice, you might see somebody grow like 60, 70 pounds on their bench press. Their bench press goes from like 1 year it's a 150 pounder to the next year it's 225 to the next year it's 285 to the next year it's 330. Like it happens much quicker. So it's just dependent upon that age. Do you know how any athletes prepare before matches for peak performance? Harry Potter, I thought you asked me this last week. Pretty sure we had this one last week. Coach, what's your costume? I'm too swole for basic costumes from Sprite Halloween store. I'm just wearing my USA jacket and saying I'm Sam Mattis. I know it's lame. Tonight, though, with my kids, I was planning on wearing my Kenya full gear with my Kenya hat and telling people I was Eliud Kipchoge or Kelvin Kiptum. Comment in the YouTube chat if you know who those guys are. Let me know. Do you train any 7-footers? And if so, how do you change their program compared to other athletes? I do not have any 7-footers. I would never make a 7-footer squat full range of motion. I would mainly be front squats, cross grip, and a lot of unilateral stuff. Mr. Oliva, Coach, how can we progressively overload the plyometrics? Like if we were using a box for depth jumps, then increasing the depth a good idea. I don't like going much past like 18 to 20 inches. Increasing the height, they should be landing on like doing box jumps where they land without having much knee flexion. If we were doing hurdle hops, you can increase the hurdle height to get the hips a little bit higher. I also think you can measure with depth drop to bound, depth drop to hurdle hop, depth drop to stair jumps. And check out that poll. We've got a poll here. How much candy am I going to be stealing from my kids? None. All of the candy, or I'm waiting till after the marathon. Let me know by commenting right here. Fill out that survey right there. Fill it out because I love candy. I love Butterfingers, and I love Three Musketeers. I'll eat all the chocolate around. Butterfingers I really like, except I get mad when the peanut butter part gets stuck in my teeth. I'll eat so many Sour Patch Kids that sometimes I feel like my gums are going to cut. They're going to get cut. I don't know if you guys can relate to that. All right, let's get it all happen around the same time. That's from D Fierce. My knee popped while rolling no gi. Partner pulled my foot towards my face like pigeon pose. I can't bend at the hip without intense pain. So is that in the back part of your hip, like hamstring? Struggling to get. I would ask if that's your hamstring. If it's your hamstring that's bugging you, let me know. Okay, Harry Potter, if you're dealing with some knee issues, do you do any single leg work or side band stuff, glute stuff? Do you do any sled work? Antenna 0612. Can my front squat, I have a 1 rep max around 80 kilos. That is much lower than my back squat, 1 rep max around 110. Can that be correlated to my knee pain? And can it also be correlated to my weak hamstrings? So I would say this, Antenna, why don't you try and get your front squat up to like 100 and then try and get your Nordics up to like 6 to 7. I would do that. Let me know what you think. The Christmas matches are coming up soon in Premier League. How would you prepare for those? How many matches are occurring between now and the Christmas matches? Let me know, because I don't know that well. What's the best leg workout exercises? Come on, Uncle Fester. I already answered that one. Mr. Oliva. Coach, thank you for everything you're doing. I'm a big fan from Turkey. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming in. All the candy, take one for the team. 100%. I might have just screwed up the voting there. Any other questions? Let me know. I'm going to leave in about 4 minutes. So you guys got about 4 minutes. Handball players workout, please. We've got a question over on Instagram. Handball, we got to look at something like, I would be training relative strength, be as fast as possible, minimal hypertrophic gains, make sure that your shoulder is as stable as possible, and that you have tremendous trunk control. So we've got to look at exercises like a power clean, like a front squat, dumbbell snatch, potentially, walking lunges, holding a sandbag. Those are some more key things. Shoulder tantrums as well. And Juho just said, Coach, what are the strength bases for 16-year-old wide receivers? I've got to pull up our actual papers on that. But I would say a good metric to work towards as a 16-year-old wide receiver. Try and power clean like 185 to 205. Try and single leg squat 185 for 5 on each leg, full range of motion. Try and power snatch like 60 kilos. See if you can do 5 to 6 pull-ups dead hang. And if you can bench body weight, that'd be fantastic. Coach, tips on eye-hand coordination. Is there a video? I actually think we might have done a video on this. Jason could comment on this, but I thought we actually did one, and he wanted to do one, if I remember. React to Dane's triple crown deadlift. Should we do a react to that? That'd be interesting. Should we pull that up, Jason? I could pull that up. Let's go. Let's do a real big throwback. Whoops. Here we go. Man, look at that. I had hair back then. So this is the video I was talking about. So if you watch, I do 10 here. And this is the original garage. So if you guys are wondering, like, this is actually the OG garage that you're seeing right there. That's where everything started. And we still have that white box. We still have that single leg squat rack. We still have, actually we got rid of the other rack. Trap bar deadlifts, 500 reps for 10, or 500 pounds for 10. We still have that white plate rack. We do not have that trap bar anymore. Okay, so we see this. For me, it was like as soon as I could get into a groove, I knew I could handle that. And if you notice, we used to heat the garage with the wood stove there in the back. I think a lot of the stuff around deadlifts is like just recognizing that you're going to get to the point where you feel like you're going to black out, and you just got to keep going and hope you don't black out. Okay, so that was a trap bar. And then finally, this is the rack pull. Somebody had asked earlier about the rack pull. I don't think these are super effective. I would always try and do it right below the knee or right below the kneecap, because that's where it was my sticking point. So I did, if you notice, I'm standing on like a little bit of a riser. I did cheat here a little bit and tap off the pin, so I probably should have done it one pin lower. But by this time you're doing this many reps, your lower back really gets shot. So to be fair, that's sort of how I felt at that moment, that exact moment. How many views does this have? This is 1,000 views. Look at that. That's a throwback. That's a throwback right there. So let me know what you guys think about that one. What do you guys think about that? How effective is a barbell shrug for traps? I actually think a barbell shrug's decent. I don't think it's amazing, but it's decent. Keith, can you believe I had hair back then? What can I replace the behind the neck push press with? PA press, dumbbell PA press. Let me know if you can do that. Should I still do or attempt athletic lifting movements if sports isn't something? I think you should. Yeah, I think you should. And the trap bar deadlifting, that was barefooted. Yep. So I think as far as going back to like the best alternative exercises for weightlifting exercises, or the best alternative exercises to weightlifting movements, is that we've got to just look at what are we trying to accomplish. If you're trying to be explosive, do plyometrics, right? If you're trying to be like real twitchy, hurdle hops, stair jumps, dumbbell snatches, trap bar jumps. If you're trying to get a little bit more power, so let's think about something like maybe you're thinking about like what you would do with a clean. I want to be super powerful. You could do dumbbell jumps that are a little bit heavier, trap bar jumps maybe a little bit heavier, or trap bar deadlifts with a band, and then you use that with contrast methods. Okay, so I think that you can get some pretty good benefits out of avoiding the Olympic lift, but I don't think it's going to be the absolute best for your overall long-term development. I think for your overall long-term development, embrace the technique, learn some different patterns, and recognize that you look at the snatch and the clean as these two lifts, but then each lift has hundreds and hundreds of variations that you have to challenge yourself to learn how to manipulate and control. So that's one of the biggest aspects, and it has tremendous transfer. The constraint in your training, if you're only training for 25, 30 minutes, you could go in and do cleans and do clean front squat, and just get an incredible workout, and that's solely from just doing those cleans in the front squat. So a lot of people will say these absolute these absolute statements like, you should just dips and pull-ups for 8 weeks straight. Well, okay. What if I just did cleans or what if I just did snatches, benches, and front squats for 8 straight weeks? Or what if I just did snatches, hang cleans, and bench all the time? Like, there's so many different things that you can do to build that up. So I will say there are alternative exercises. You don't always have to weightlift, but at the end of the day, I think weightlifting is ultimately what rules supreme. Until next time, peace.